GW is still like the most expensive university.
I'm not sure, maybe, I
Okay.
don't know, they all seem pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's wild, but
Yeah.
GW was like up there. I lived in DC for 10 years
Yeah,
and GW was up there.
yeah.
Okay, recording.
It's American, I like American too. Yeah, American's nice.
If I had to pick from the three in DC, American.
Oh, yeah, okay, wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so okay, if I start.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to the April 15th, 2024 meeting of the Housing and Homelessness Committee. My name is Rich Mintz and I'm the chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by Community Coordinator Brian Lafferty. This meeting is called to order at 6:34 p.m. As a reminder, New York state law requires all community board members who are not able to attend in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise questions or comments through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, Michael, you can raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there's time following committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. Miriam has volunteered to take minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. We will now take attendance by roll call. Brian will conduct the roll call.
Thanks, Rich. Committee members, I'll call your name. When your name is called, please say present. I'll announce if there's a quorum. Kyle died. I don't see him here. Then Eric Goldberg is excused. Nad Kalani,
Present.
thank you. Abby Kuzma.
Here.
Thank you. Sandra Lepto. I don't see her. Rich Mintz.
Present.
Thank you. Marion Root.
Present.
Thank you. Livia Shrednick.
Present.
Thank you. With 5 of 8 members present, we have a quorum. And I will show you back slides.
Stand by, everyone. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is about to be, there it is, reflected on the screen before you. The one change that I would like to make is I'd like to swap items 3 and 4 so that we can do our 2 resolutions first before going on to other matters. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda with that change. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Aye.
I can raise my hand for that.
And just noting for the record, Sandra Leftoff is now here. Seeing no objections to the agenda is adopted. The minutes of the March 25th, 2024 joint meeting of the Land Use and Waterfront and Housing and Homelessness Committee are being drafted. They will be considered at the next meeting. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. Members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you can speak. It is important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. Chat function for committee members present by Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us of any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information such as an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. And before we go into the agenda, I want to note we have a lot of substantive business, so I am going to try to move the meeting along as efficiently as possible. We will start with our presenter about the Community Land Act, and that's Elise Golden, I think. Are you ready for us to pass the talking stick to you?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. One question before I begin. About how long do I have to present?
I would appreciate it if you would be as expeditious as you can. I mean, do you need 15 minutes? I don't know how long you normally take.
Yeah, that works. Yeah,
Okay,
cool.
if you run over,
Maybe I
like, we're
can
not.
make it a little less. I'll
Yeah.
speed through it.
Yeah.
And would it be okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, we'd be happy to. It'll make it
Okay.
easier to follow you.
Great. Good.
And
So
I
can
just,
everyone? Oh, sorry.
yeah, we can see it. I just want to note that we're excited about this. So
Oh,
we're
good.
looking forward to hearing you talk about it.
Awesome. So yeah, hey everyone. So my name is Elise. I am the Community Land Trust Campaign Organizer at New Economy Project. Really appreciate you giving me time to speak this evening. And just, yeah, so that is who I am. So I'm going to be speaking about the Community Land Act. And this is a set of bills that a coalition called Nicely, the New York City Community Land Initiative, has put together to create, as it says, pathways to community ownership and real affordability. So our goal is to remove as much land and housing as possible from the speculative cycle, the speculative market, and put it in the hands of community ownership and permanent affordability. So the Community Land Act is sort of 4 pieces. And I'll go into each one, but just so you see it, it includes COPA, the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, and TOPA, a resolution to support TOPA on the state level, the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, as well as Public Land for Public Good. And we are also calling to abolish and replace the New York City tax lien sale. So I'll go into this, but maybe actually just like a raise of hands or shout it out, like, are these bills familiar to you? Have you heard of any of them?
Yeah,
completely new.
We've talked about COPA and TOPA, and I think we are on record as endorsing both as a community.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, great.
I don't know what Public Land for Public Good is, and I'd like to hear more about the lien sale change.
Great. Awesome. So yeah, and here's just a map for context. You know, these bills would cover both community, like basically what COPA, TOPA, and Public Land for Public Good do are give nonprofits and like qualified nonprofits and community land trusts an opportunity to make a first offer on either private residential buildings or RFPs on public land, like would give them a priority. And so because we in our coalition at Nicely are really focused on community land trusts, we also wanted to show a map. So like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, there was really just 1, maybe 2 CLTs in New York City. And now we have over 20. We're this booming movement where groups are coming together and really trying to take land and housing to make it permanently affordable and controlled by the community. I will say, I don't think there's a community land trust working in your catchment area in
No, but
your community board.
Cooper Square is just outside, and we're very aware of it.
Amazing, great. And I'll say Interborough works citywide, so I'm sure could overlap.
Okay.
And yeah, and this package of bills got a lot of momentum last year. So we had almost a super majority of city council members signed on to both COPA and the Public Land for Public Good bills. We have 2/3 of city council members committed not to reauthorize the tax lien sale. And we have more than 130 groups that have endorsed this package. So this is a set of bills that are really being put forward as, you know, this is how maybe this is part of solving kind of like the housing crisis that we're in New York City.
Has the mayor's office expressed a point of view?
The mayor's office, unsurprisingly, has largely been opposed. So you know, I think that there's possibly room to kind of negotiate with the administration, but yeah, unsurprisingly, when the bills had hearings, particularly COPA and the public land bill, they were against it.
So,
We have a question from Sandra.
yeah,
Sure.
on what grounds is the mayor's office opposing?
What about it? Yeah, let
No,
me
no,
get in.
what are they saying in opposition? How do they raise, what's the opposition based on?
Yeah, let me get into it like for each bill because
keep going.
it depends. But I think, you know, I think just like generally our perspective is like they're in support of real estate, right? They really, their principal concern is, in our opinion, keeping for-profit developers happy, and these bills kind of dig into that. But I can go into the specifics with each bill.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't need to berate the point, but voters want this. We have a strong majority of New Yorkers have expressed support for these bills. So I don't need to go too deep into COPA since you all know what it is, but just to say that it gives qualified nonprofits and community land trusts a right to make a first offer on unit of 3 units or more residential properties. And we've seen this be really successful in San Francisco, in DC. I think we have a stat that it has preserved 16,000 units of affordable housing in DC, the TOPA legislation, since it was enacted. So it's really successful, and we want that tool here. And just to answer the question around opposition that we're seeing for COPA, you know, I think the main opposition is that they fear that it slows the market. So the administration has received pushback from real estate developers that, oh, we want to be able to sell our property as quickly as possible, right?
Oh, it slows the turning of properties.
Exactly. And we see this as one, we don't think it slows it that much to give an extra month or two. Right now, the time frame in the bill is much longer than that, but you know, I think we're assuming it would have to be cut in negotiations. And we don't think it's so bad to slow the flipping of property from one real estate, you know, private investor to the next. We think it's okay to slow it down and give.
Sandra, you had your question?
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. Who sets, these nonprofits make the offer, who sets the price on which the seller is going to sell? And so the assumption would be if the real estate market wants it, they're just going to bid over that. So how does it act, you know, so I don't understand that, if you can explain it.
Yeah, so there's no piece in the bill that sets the price. So we're not, we can't control how much a property owner is going to accept or not. And we can't tell them that they can accept $1 less. So they're able to set the price. It goes for whatever the market yields, you know? So a nonprofit or a CLT would have to make a competitive price, and an owner can choose to accept or reject that offer. What doesn't exist in the current COPA legislation, but we're working hard to make sure it's included and is part of the TOPA legislation, and also as part of like what these bills are in other cities, is also a right of first refusal. So that means that let's say a community land trust could make an offer on a building. The owner says, no, we don't want to accept that offer. They go with a third party private developer. But before they finalize the sale, they must return to that original community land trust, present the final terms of the offer, And if the community land trust can match those terms, then they would receive the building. But it would have to be exactly the same price and terms that the owner has agreed to.
Or better, or better.
Or better, sure.
Michael, you have a quick comment, and then I'd like to move on. You can, oh no, you should probably step up. Do we have a microphone? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Michael Cohen, and I would like to ask, how many buildings in New York City are owned by a nonprofit community land trust versus private developers? What's the proportion of apartment buildings that are?
That's a great question. Just so I understood, how many buildings are owned by a community land trust or a nonprofit? Was that the question?
Yeah, how many buildings or how many units right now are outside the commercial market?
So
If you know.
I don't know for how many units are in general, like nonprofit controlled. I'm sure we could look that up. But in terms of community land trusts, I believe there are about, I would say around 500 units. So the largest of which, as you all know, is Cooper Square Community Land Trust.
Yeah.
Which has 16 buildings, actually 18 buildings, since they recently got two new rental buildings. East New York Community Land Trust just acquired a building, and Interborough has 2 buildings, and the East Harlem El Barrio Community Land Trust has 4 buildings.
Okay. We've hijacked you, but I'm gonna let you push forward.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna skip this, but I will say that I'll just say there's conversations around how to finance these bills, because we know that it's only going to be successful with real public financing to make competitive offers. So yeah, and here's that case study. East New York Community Land Trust just last month made their first purchase of a 20-unit building, 248 Arlington, where tenants organize, work with the community land trust, purchase their buildings, and are going to become limited equity co-ops. So that's very exciting. We also have Public Land for Public Good, which is a bill that was introduced by Councilmember Lincoln Ressler. It's intro 78, and it requires New York City to prioritize qualified community land trusts and nonprofits when they're disposing of city-owned land. So, you know, we're sick of seeing our public land being given away to for-profit developers. And we're not saying that all community land trusts should be, you know, automatically get it, or nonprofits should automatically get it. But if there's a competitive bid, then they should be prioritized.
Okay.
And yeah, you can see most dispositions are in more low-income Black and brown neighborhoods. We also have done some research that shows that most public land dispositions are, like the housing built on public land, is not affordable to the neighborhoods that land is in.
You're saying that when land is given, is sold to private developers who then build housing on the land, those apartments are not affordable to the people living in the neighborhood?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for making that clear. And we just had another really exciting win where a community land trust in the South Bronx called Mott Haven Port Morris Community Land Stewards just won an RFP to control the former Lincoln Hospital detox center. And they're going to create a health education in the arts center. And we want more of this. And we're in competition with for-profit groups. We want our community land trusts to be prioritized, since they're really working with the community. Actually, I'm realizing we don't have a slide around the tax lien sale, but I can share quickly that the tax lien sale is a policy that was implemented by Giuliani, where when properties aren't paying their taxes and have liens put on their buildings, instead of the city being in charge of collecting those liens and having the ability to hold those property owners accountable, instead they sell the liens to a private entity that then implements lots of fees that often leads to those property owners going into foreclosure. And they're making millions of dollars, this private company, through that process. And what we want is a new replacement system that is still able to collect taxes, but also is able to keep, low income Black and brown homeowners, keep their equity and keep them in their homes. As well as we recently did a study and learned that 85% of the units that are impacted by the lien sale are actually rentals. So it's really tenants that are the most severely impacted, and they're living in poor conditions. So we don't want to see this lien sale just further the kind of horrible treatment of these tenants. We want opportunities like TOPA and COPA and transfers to community land trusts, so that the buildings can be preserved, so that tenants can actually live in quality conditions. When the lien sale happens, we lose all of that leverage.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, so before we move on to the next topic, is there anything specific you want us to do in support of this now?
Yeah, so we do have a draft resolution, and we would love for you all to, come out in support of the Community Land Act. And I'll share that in the chat.
Okay.
I think
So
that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
We will, as you know, we endorsed the bills in the last session. We will take a look at your model resolution and bring it back on the table next month when we're here.
Amazing. Thank you. And I'll also just say that if anyone happens to be free on Thursday at 11 a.m., just in a couple of days, we're going to be out at City Hall Park for a big rally for these bills. So you're more than welcome to join us if you're free.
Thank you. Who's the principal sponsor of COPA and TOPA?
So COPA is the sponsor is Carlina Rivera.
Okay. Who represents part of our district.
Perfect. Yes. I think I knew that because I know there's a building on 14th Street that I think is in your district that is a Ohab Shalom owned building, that horrible landlord that was just arrested, and we want a COPA like solution for that building. And then for TOPA, so it's the resolution to support TOPA. The public advocate, Jamani Williams, is the lead sponsor.
Oh, so it's a city council resolution to support state legislation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And in the state, it's Marcella Mataines, the assembly member, and Zelnor Myrie, the state senator.
Very good. Thank you. Sandra, you had one more comment before we move on?
Well, I just wanted to actually ask if there's, be possible to email you. I have some questions, and I would love to be able to run them by you. So
sure, definitely. I'm going to put my email in the chat.
Okay.
That's not the right email. I'm sorry.
Okay. And it's not. It's you're involved with these public land trusts. It's not connected to HPD or any of the other city agencies. Is that
right? We of course work closely with HPD through getting our projects moved forward, but we're separate. We're nonprofit and kind of like grassroots community groups.
Thank you. I just want to note for the record that Susan Steinberg comments that Governor Hochul announced today that as part of the housing budget, new housing will be built on public land, which is something that she talked about in the State of the State. That I imagine that is good for community land trusts, right?
Well, yeah, that is good for community land trusts if we have this intro 78 where community land trusts in the neighborhoods where this public land has been have
Can be
know,
the ones.
can be prioritized to really build
Yeah.
the type of housing and community entities, that the
Yeah.
community really wants and needs.
Sandra?
Yeah, I just want, so actually, it can absolutely work in the opposite direction. They're gonna support using public land, and then they're gonna work against what you're trying to do by selling it off to developers, which we've been.
So we
hearing
gotta
a
get the
lot.
bill passed, you're saying?
Yeah, but.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's serious because of all of that running around looking for what's available lands in
Yeah.
our district. And it's not clear who they're gonna sell it to, right? And
Yeah.
certainly, I didn't hear anything about community land trust as the
Yeah.
we're rallying for, so that's
Right.
quite a missing link.
All
here.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise, for being both informative and efficient. We appreciate hearing about this, and we'll take this back up at our next meeting.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Brian?
There's one more
Oh.
question in the Q&A. I'm not.
Oh,
Okay.
hang on, let me look. The question is, what is the jurisdiction where a CLT can buy? I mean, and the answer here, I think, is that if the city a bill passes, it would be New York City, right? Like anywhere. But they don't have any, like, they can't force a sale. They just
Right.
would participate in this negotiation process if there's a
Exactly.
president wants to. Okay.
Yeah, and most community land trusts, not all, but most are really specific to like specific neighborhoods. So, technically could purchase land or, acquire land outside of that neighborhood, but most are really like grassroots focused on specific.
They're small organizations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone. I'm gonna move the agenda and go on to the topic of the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity Zoning Text Amendment Package. And to set the stage for this committee met jointly last month with the Land Use and Waterfront Committee to talk about the provisions of the mayor's proposed City of Yes text amendments for housing that are most relevant to our district. And we prepared, Majed and I prepared a resolution that encapsulated the concerns that came up in our meeting, in the hope that we can get the same resolution endorsed by both committees, land use meeting tomorrow. And whatever we pass is gonna go before land use to see if they can endorse it. And if they make any amendments, they'll have to come back to us, which I hope won't happen, but we'll sort through it if we have to cross that bridge. The reason that you see modifications in blue here on this, or you will when Brian scrolls down, is that I made some edits to the resolution that we emailed you last week, because it became clear that the land use wanted a stronger statement about preservation of open space, and specifically about preserving the open space that is built into Stuyvesant Town and Peter Cooper Village, and not allowing those open space areas to be entitled to the looser infill provisions that are proposed in the City of Yes infill. And you'll recall that we talked about those infill provisions last time. They were things like reducing the setback between infill buildings and the existing buildings, and letting them take all of the floor area for the whole property and concentrate it in a smaller number of buildings that they could build taller. And our land use committee, members of our land use committee, at least two and probably more, feel very strongly that we've worked very hard to protect open space in our district, and they want to make sure that we don't essentially give away the farm by endorsing something that would chip away further. And I didn't know this until I looked it up, but we are the 58th least open space district in the city out of 59. So that space in the courtyards of Stuyvesant Town and Peter Cooper Village is really important to the southern half of our district.
And that other district is outside of Manhattan. So we are the lowest.
We're the lowest in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Excellent. So just to walk through what the specific things are that we're asking for, Brian, if you scroll up to the number one here. One, which is the most important, is that as we talked about in the last meeting, the proposal as presented is all carrot and no stick. There is no requirement to increase the proportion of income restricted housing in exchange for these provisions that will allow people to build bigger and taller and denser. And we think that there should be. We think that if the zoning code is changed to allow the production of housing units, they should include income restricted housing in at least like proportion, if not more. So that's item one.
In proportion to the diversity of income, so if we've got
No.
30, wait, let me finish.
Wait.
So if we've got 40% of the city makes below 30% of the AMI, then that's what we're saying is that 40% of the apartments should be of these affordable apartments. So the distribution should match the city distribution of income. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. That's gotta be said very clearly.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Number two, we talked last week about, the fact that, smaller units are being combined into larger units, and so we're losing rent stabilized, units. And, so, we are asking for a mechanism to guard against losing those, losing units, by combination or by building super large units in place of smaller units. Will you scroll down to number three? Oh, that's two and three together. Three is about making sure that if we liberalize the regulations to build new units, we get as many units as possible. So we want to limit the proliferation of gigantic apartments, huge like luxury apartments, and we want to allow units smaller than the current legal threshold, which is 680 square feet, if the market supports them. Right now, those are not allowed, even though there are plenty of them that exist in the city. You can't build one now, and we think that that they should be permitted. If the developer wants to build them and there's a market for them. The fourth one, floating FAR, is something that we talked about in the last meeting. In the areas around landmarked district, it's been proposed to liberalize the rules for transferring floor area from the landmarks, historic buildings to other locations that are in the general area. And instead of just being able to transfer them across the street, you might be able to transfer them anywhere in a 9 square block area. And the proposal didn't include any community review, but we're saying that it should. And the proposal didn't include any income restricted units, and we're saying that it should. And then finally, infill housing, as we just talked about, we want to ensure that open space isn't all gobbled up. And we have proposed that Stuyvesant Town, Peter Cooper Village, and other planned communities in the city that have intensively used public open space are not covered by the liberalized infill regulations. And how they do that is not really, we don't really care. Like, they could explicitly exclude certain properties by name. They could have a list. They could exclude properties meeting certain conditions of public use. But the result would be the same, which is that these open space areas would be protected. So I'm going to stop talking and see if there are any comments or questions about this. Sandra,
I'm kind of shocked, I have to tell you.
at the resolution,
Yeah, the
do you
resolution.
think it's too strong or too weak?
I think it shouldn't be. You're saying, remember this woman said, God bless her, which is the mayor supports real estate. We know that.
Yeah,
My first question is, who here has read the 700-page document?
I have not read the 7.
Case closed, right? You know what happened with 421A, right? You folks all know that. It's like, it's a boondoggle for developers. If you don't read the document, you can't vote on a resolution to support it. I mean, that's dishonest to me.
Well, I mean, we,
No, that's my position.
Okay.
Fine, if people have read it, if they understand that there's gonna be all kinds of stuff in there, and what you say here is you were provisionally endorsing it. Well, you know it's going through city council. If community boards provisionally endorse something they don't know very much about, they're not doing anybody any favors. So I think to word this as a support or an endorsing it without actually knowing the content is unacceptable. To me, it's absolutely unacceptable.
so you would,
I wouldn't endorse something I have not read.
you would take out the provisional endorsement and leave the comments and
And I was certainly welcome, right? The comments, yes, I would absolutely take out the endorsement.
And wait a
Yes.
minute.
Have you read it? Do you have a feeling on it one way or
On
the other? Did you read the 700? I'm curious if you, okay.
I mean, I get this thing.
So you're saying you don't feel comfortable taking a position on it because you're just.
Absolutely not. I know enough about what happened with the 421A,
Sure.
right? And that was an absolute boondoggle. It was disgraceful. For
Mhm.
those of you who don't know it, it's about taking, giving these developers the right to, they're not paying property tax. That's the amount of money that the city lost, they could have built those buildings, right? So a lot of rich people made a bunch of money on that, and we lost. Well, do I think there's stuff like that in here? Absolutely. Right? I would not endorse this. And we know that this administration is absolutely real estate friendly, so what are we doing?
Has the city of ES been endorsed by any housing groups
well, it's,
that, we invite?
I mean, I think all of the groups that advocate for housing construction volume will be in favor. But we haven't yet had it formally presented to us by DCP. They're coming probably in 2 months, I'm guessing. Because I don't think we have a date yet, which means it's probably June.
But has like New Economy Project or the Coalition for Housing taken a position?
The one I know is Open New York is in favor, but I don't know about organizations like NHD. I think it must be too soon.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things too are gonna take shape. Look at good cause eviction. Now a lot of advocates are like vote against it because of the provisions that they put into it, that are not necessarily friendly towards tenants, right? So I think part of that is there too, but I think our resolution, at least the way I read it, differentiates between, the policy in itself, but also the approach.
Yeah,
Which I think to me is clear and that there needs to be something done to kind of innovate and revitalize. To me, if someone wants to take out endorses the approach, like to me, it doesn't make a huge difference. If you feel more comfortable taking that out, like I don't think it changes the content of this resolution. But I also don't care if it's in there. Because I think we need to kind of work with our electeds too, in terms of like, this is a policy that seems to have a lot of support behind it, a lot of legs on it. So how do we work within this particular space and kind of.
yeah, I mean, speaking as a member of the committee, not as the chair. I definitely provisionally endorse the approach, which is to create to facilitate the construction of more housing more rapidly. That said, like, I don't.
Do we want to articulate that, like what you just said? The approach of.
But you're not saying anything about income, so what you can get are, right, so if you're not talking about affordability and clearly defining it, you're just giving people.
So yeah, so I agree with that. So that's actually what my comment was gonna be after your comment was about the number one under the resolve, which is when we say affordable, because I think affordable now has become such a amorphous, abstract thought of like what is actually affordable, that developers can use that to be like, well, I think it's affordable for,
No, they'll be very clear.
yeah, well, they will
They'll
be
say
very clear.
165% of the AMI, right? That's like $200,000 income. and
Yeah, so I
that's
was at,
called
yeah,
affordable.
So as we're going through this, I was actually looking at the AMI.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
percentage, so hundred and sixty-five actually is still not, like, it's 160 grand for one person.
Yeah, it's
Um,
ridiculous, right? I mean, when you
Well,
look,
I would say I would still say like there are people struggling with 160 in this particular district in getting a one bedroom, and a one bedroom's like $6,000 a
but what
month,
you're,
but.
what, if we take away our own very personal interest, this is for the entire city, right?
Yeah.
And we want to protect, and what has,
Yeah.
we know housing is not developing.
So yeah,
for the
so I was gonna
neighborhood.
say, like, we can put this, for if we wanna define what that is, we could say 30% to 165% off AMI. Or whatever that discussion ends up.
You mean
Like,
for
number one,
when we say income restricted housing, we can say explicitly what we mean
yeah,
by.
exactly, yeah.
But then when we also add is, it has to represent the income demographics of New York City. Because if you don't do that, what they do is they take, I just saw this thing in the Times on Sunday, it was like, oh, I can't believe it. It was affordable housing and was all in the 100% and above. And that was affordable. Well, you don't want to give anybody license to do that. You want to say, what I just said, here's the demographics on income in our city,
Mhm.
right? From whatever, 30% to blah, 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 I've called it affordable, but then it has to represent the actual demographics of income in our city. I don't see that anywhere. I don't see it here, right, in this affordable housing. It has to be said specifically, because otherwise everybody walks all over it. And, you know, I don't want to do that.
Well, as the chair, I don't want to direct the material direction of this conversation, so I would ask, is there anyone who has a specific proposal you'd like to make to amending this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say. And I don't know if you wanna pull up this chart, Brian, it's just the AMI page on the HPD's website. And it just gives a chart of what affordability is for the New York City AMI, so 30% AMI, yeah, if you can scroll down. Yeah, right there, so the 30% is 29,670. And if you go all the way to the right on that chart, 165% of AMI is 163,185 for a family of one, right? I would suggest we could put 30% to 165 of AMI. And when we do think about this, we also have to remember that any resolution first has to be district specific and then citywide and, you know, so on and so forth. But to me, that's a comfortable range.
30 to 165?
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is, anything that gets established is likely to have, 80 as the target.
Right.
Because that's what's in the compromise good cause that's coming through, meaning they could, you know, if 80 is the target for their affordable units, they can have, you know, half of them be 40 and half of them be 120 or whatever. Honestly, I would be fine not going as high as 165. I don't think that's where
Well, I'm just, yeah, cause what
You
I'm.
would not,
No.
no. I
What
think
I'm,
it's a
yeah,
great-
cause what I'm just thinking about is like, what we hear a lot about is affordable housing, but we forget like the middle class, right? Which is like, if you look at Town as an example, like the Town demographics are further up.
Yeah.
On that level, right? And we view that as the bastion of middle class.
That's
housing,
true, and we
right?
are
It's
with,
no
and so-
longer middle class. I mean, that was how it was built, right?
Yeah.
Post-war. It ain't that way anymore.
Sure, but what
So
I'm
then
saying
let's
is.
Talk about what's.
No, but what I'm
That's
saying
not-
is circumstances have changed too, right? Which is we need to obviously protect our most low income too. But we then forget that middle part of like, well, where do middle class people say? So I think I think that warrants, you know, protection as well. And I don't think that we protect those. I think we always protect those who are most in need, which as we should. But then we forget about the middle class because the middle class is very important because there's no way to get from low income to higher income without going through middle income. So what do we do once we're in that 100 to 165 area, which is not affordable for people right now? You can make $160,000 and still be living paycheck.
you
to
can't
paycheck.
rent a market
Yeah,
apartment.
you can't rate a market apartment, right? So what do we do about those people? Do we exclude them from every type of housing plan that we do just because we always want to focus on the most low income, which we always do? But then what happens for this in-between area,
Well,
transition phase?
Well, then what about the proposal I made of doing it by specifically referring to the income demographics of the city and saying what we want in this affordable proposal is the.
A mix of housing that
No,
represents.
the housing mix of affordability has got to represent the economic diversity of our city in its actual proportion. So again, 20% of our population is below the 30%, then 20% of those apartments go to them.
Okay.
If, et cetera, but we have to be very clear, and we've never been clear about that, so just talking about affordability without specifically saying that these people.
That
completely
works
off the
for
hook.
me, because I think that would actually accomplish the same thing.
Yeah.
I think we're
and
talking about the
so
same thing, yeah.
I would vote for that.
Yeah, so that's what I would wanna know.
So how would you phrase that?
Will you bring up the, resolution, please?
I can never repeat something. I hate
Well,
that.
good thing it's recorded,
And-
right?
Right, oh, God, thank God. It's my
And
therapeutic,
scroll down to
but
that
what
item
like
one.
you said, what they said, I hate
Yeah.
what you said, what did I say?
Sorry.
That it should be directly, the
The-
percentage of housing should be directly
Proportional-
proportionate to the income levels, the
To
income
the-
diversity of New York City.
Right, so that, we're saying that once we get I didn't use the word diversity, it's the income distribution
Distribution.
of the residents of the city would have to be reflected in the distribution of affordable units. So for example, and it should
Yeah.
have an example to make it clear. So if 20% of the population of New York City is at 30% of the AMI, then 20% of those apartments have to go to that percentage, you know, that,
Yeah.
20%. That 20% of those apartments have to go to the residents who make below 30% of the AMI.
No, that works for me. And
And I would just go right
I would
through
just
it
say,
in that
can we
way.
double check that? Because I also don't want to get into a situation where actually most people are over 100.
Well, we don't need to put numbers.
Yeah.
Can I sit in your chair and just type something? Cause,
You
because
also understand there has to be.
I just
because
wanna
the
put sense
AMI
in.
And the median income in New York are not the same, right?
Right, of course.
Right, you guys all know that's how the AMI
Yeah.
works and the difference between the AMI and, first of all, the AMI of New York City is not representing New York City, it represents the suburbs as well, makes it much higher. We don't talk about median
So,
income, right? And so the median
Well,
income is in fact
I'm gonna let you
considerably
do it,
lower.
because this is my
So,
final.
just so you guys get that. is-
Oh, I can look at this.
This is the mouse for the laptops. Yeah.
But where's the cursor?
It's right there. It's at the end of the
Right,
paragraph.
Yeah,
I'll just do this.
you have to use this keyboard.
That's why
We got a lot of accessories.
should result. Oops. In the creation of new units that are income restricted to be affordable to New Yorkers according to the income distribution of the population of the city. Now, Sonia, you read that and tell me if it.
Well, I
what you
want the
meant.
for example, so it's absolutely clear.
Okay, so,
So for example,
yeah,
if 20% of residents earn below, somebody can clear, earn below 30% of the AMI, then
sorry, I'm mad at you, I'm
If-
mad
yeah.
at myself.
so for example, if 20% of the New York residents, New York City residents, earn 30% of the AMI,
Yeah,
then, or below, how do you want, but then,
Then 20%
of the apartments,
of the incremental units,
what do you call it?
it's incremental units, resulting from the change.
Why can't you just say of the, affordable units, of the, but I don't know what incremental means.
Of the
The
units should be
Should be
20%.
affordable.
The new unit. Should be, right,
Yeah,
Should be 20%.
So for example, 20% of the population, of a New York City population earns.
I'm gonna let you sit down.
Oh,
Do you want me to type? I
God,
can-
yeah, you type it, I mean, we're not. We're asking a woman to do the typing, that's very bad. I'm just saying.
Well, I would also add here, result in the proportionate.
Proportionate is a good word.
Right?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
use
damn
that
it.
keyboard, yeah, sorry.
Income restricted to be affordable to New Yorkers. If 20% of city residents earn
30% less of
30%,
the,
learn less.
less than 30%, let's do
Less
that.
than 30% of the earned income, then 20% of the units should be affordable
To them,
to them.
to that, wait, should be should be,
At their income.
wait.
To that level, to that.
20% of the, units should be, I don't know how we.
Just say it should be
Um,
affordable at that income.
Or assigned to that income
Oh,
level.
yeah, that's it,
Like,
should be assigned
Specific
income
level.
level. Good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, scroll up so, I can see it all. There we go. Any students, proportionate creation of units, income percent.
You have to read yourself down.
Yeah. For example, if. Can you scroll down so we can read this?
Should I read the whole thing?
Yes, please,
Yeah.
read it, that would be great.
Alright, the proposal does not mandate any additional income restricted housing in exchange for liberalizing the zoning regulations that govern housing construction. Manhattan Community Board 6 is formally on record as considering the development and preservation of affordable housing to be among our city's highest priorities, and any scheme to increase housing construction overall should result in the proportionate creation of new units that are income restricted to be affordable to New Yorkers according to the income distribution of the population of the city. There's a lot.
It's a lot
Yeah.
that should be broken down.
For example, if 20% of city residents earn less than 30% of the area median income, then 20% of the units should be rented.
Income
To
restricted.
that group.
Yeah.
Should be income restricted to that group.
Scroll up and let's look at the top again, that long sentence.
Do we need the whole preamble?
Um,
Well, you do want to say that it's not in there, right?
Yeah.
That seems to me, they left that out, they left that out.
So, yeah, cause I'm saying like when we say like, Community Board 6 is formally on record, it's like, that's a preamble that we.
and we said that already above, so you
Yeah.
can take it out.
Just put a period after priority. And then start. a
I'll
new
I'll put this as red. Where's the?
Here's what I would do. Take out, the sentence beginning Manhattan Community Board 6, because we say that above. And, start with any scheme,
You said that actual sentence above?
very close to it.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it like over and over again, like we don't, it's in our
I think it's
district
in
needs. It's in our district needs.
It should be in the.
Well,
proposal.
scroll
It
up,
should
you'll
be-
see it's up there.
This is such a loaded issue that it has to be really beaten into it. So if you
I
said.
mean, it's
someplace
our
else-
first whereas clause, right? Manhattan Community Board 6 formally and repeatedly expresses.
Although we don't say affordable,
You're
you're
not
right.
saying- so
Should we put that in?
Just make
I
that
think
two
it's-
sentences.
Yeah,
Put a period after priority.
Right here?
yeah, pull that up.
I'm just saying this whole section is very wordy.
Yeah, that was true.
It's hard, it's this.
Yeah.
So we could just say any scheme, right? Just to,
Just break it into two sentences.
or we could say therefore, any scheme. How do you,
And I could
how
also
about you say
just,
therefore, any scheme?
Wait, are you moving that Manhattan Community Board 6 sentence up to the preamble?
Which part?
I was just saying, if you said, if you do this with that any scheme, if you just say therefore, any scheme, so you're linking it to,
Okay.
right?
That's fine.
You're fine with anything that's person, income restriction be affordable to New York or. Wait, affordable to New Yorkers, scroll down. According to the income distribution of the population.
New affordable units, does this say new affordable units?
Well, that's what we're saying is affordable, right?
Yeah, okay.
But that's what I was saying
It is
before too,
open.
because like that was my proposal, but I think yours does cover it. Right, because I was saying we need to define what affordable is,
Yeah.
so we need to say, is that 30 to 165?
It's a good point,
But,
Sandra.
yeah, but if you're,
I
if,
know that.
but if you're saying like it should be proportionate to the income levels, I think that does do the same thing anyway.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is that if for some reason, and I don't actually have the stat offhand, is if there is like 65% of New Yorkers, whatever they consider AMI, is over 165 per one person, then that kind of screws us, because then we have to assign all new housing to people who make more than 165. I don't think that's the case,
That's
but
not-
I'm just saying if it
Okay.
is, right, like that's
That's-
the only
You're doing
issue.
all of New
Yeah.
York City.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what are we talking about? We're
No,
talking
no,
about-
I know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like, if we're thinking about it in perpetuity, right?
Uh-huh.
It's always better to give a defined range than it is to say like the average number of people, right? Because if at some point there's some reason that a number of people leave New York City because it's too expensive, then you get a higher proportion of higher income people, right? That's the
Right.
only.
And well,
yeah.
my only point is, it has to be so clearly spelled out, because that's what gets
Yeah,
basically
I
screwed
agree.
around with when they actually draw
Yeah.
up, they start doing it. So, yes, things change. but-
yeah.
I would endorse this language.
Yeah.
Um,
Do we wanna add to the top? About affordable housing,
And where?
like in this first, because we just mentioned it before, that it doesn't say affordable housing, it
Well,
just
that-
says shortage of housing units.
That's a great, yes,
Yeah.
it does not mention affordable housing, which is clearly of great significance.
To address the shortage and affordability of housing.
Yes.
yeah,
There's shortage of affordable housing.
Well,
Oh,
the
affordable
shortage is
housing.
both, actually, I mean, they
it's
make a
both,
point.
yeah, because it's shortage of market too.
Of a shortage of market and affordable.
Housing
so
units and affordable housing.
you wanna say market and?
Shortage of housing units and affordability and lack of affordability.
Well, I think your original wording was good, the shortage and affordability. of housing.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it's not, to address the shortage, and affordability, yeah.
so now the only thing on the table is what we do about provisionally endorse, and it sounds like the sense of this group is that we're not gonna provisionally endorse. I can see, three people already shaking their heads, so.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not gonna-
do we wanna like first define what exactly that
Yeah,
means?
okay, let's look.
Right? So do you wanna explain like what, cause I like the language that you used before.
I mean, the idea is that we want them to do something, and there are a lot of things, there are gonna be things in here that encourage the construction of housing. And we are on record as saying that the construction of housing is a good thing.
I mean, in my opinion, like I always think like provisionally approving something is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Because we're giving things that we are demanding in a revision.
Yeah,
So we can say something to the effect, and we can workshop this language, is like, Community Board 6 is encouraged by the objectives or values of this initial draft.
No, but we don't know what the point is, if we haven't read the draft, we don't know what's in it, right?
Well,
And
then,
that's-
well, then here's the thing, at some point, we have to commit to reading the entire
That's right.
thing if
You
we're gonna
read it,
push
right,
anything on
that's
it,
right.
so yeah,
I mean,
so.
otherwise it's would intellectually dishonest.
well,
to
we're
do
gonna
that.
get, I mean, we got a presentation.
Yeah, we got one presentation,
Yeah.
one perspective. We didn't get,
Well,
there's a lot of people out there with a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
To be serious about it, you don't get one perspective.
We're gonna get, DCP in probably 2 months. So you wanna hold off, on endorsing until after that happens.
We don't want to hold up on endorsing forever.
What
Right?
what can we say we support, if anything, about this?
I think we could make it more like affirmative in what we want. So we could say like, therefore be it resolved that Manhattan Community Board 6 proposes to, if you scroll down, Kyle, what if we just wordsmith? That the proposal mandates additional income restricted housing in exchange for liberalizing, like we could just take out sort of our umbrella provisionally endorsed and just put the therefore be it resolved as what we want them to do, if that makes sense.
Right.
So that might be, for example, therefore be it resolved that Manhattan Community Board 6.
Request that the proposal mandate any additional income specific. Like, go through all of these and but like therefore be it resolved that Manhattan Community Board 6 requests that we do X, Y, Z.
I'd say stronger language, like compels, encourages,
Yeah.
directs, inform.
There's the problem with that is I have other questions on what I don't know. That implies that we want this, but there are other things that I want to know whether I want or not. So for example, they're gonna give 20% of the apartments. Is it, if a building has, I'll do it, 1,000 square feet. So are they saying they're gonna give 20% or 200 square feet to afford it to these apartments? Or are they gonna say, we're gonna do 20 apartments, but they're all gonna be like,
So that,
20
yeah,
square
so that
feet.
was,
No, it's gonna be square footage, for sure.
Oh, it's gonna be 20% of the square footage. It says that in the,
That was, that came from DCP in the clarification that went out.
yeah, I of course wanna see that in writing before I, list things, and I haven't seen it in writing.
Okay,
It isn't right, right? What they responded.
Well, but then-
Yeah.
Okay, but then,
but we haven't had it
We
presented.
haven't
to us.
seen it, right? I have others too, well, I mean, there are other comments like that about what, what I certainly don't know and would worry about.
Yeah,
Uh.
so what
Yeah, go ahead.
what are we able to say?
So I think the purpose of this particular resolution should be to compel them to add these changes to their next draft, right? So I think that the resolve should include language that like Abby just suggested, like. Community Board 6 encourages DCP to include the following in their.
How about calls on?
Yeah, calls
DCP?
on, yeah. Maybe calls on.
Can I ask why we're doing this before?
Because this
why
is
do
our-
we need- Wait, let me finish. Why do we need a resolution now? When we're quite naive? What's the rush on the resolution?
This is our only opportunity to influence what they come out with in the actual zoning text amendments before it comes to us for formal review.
So we don't, okay, so it's a sort of crapshoot. It's like, here's the things we picked up, but there's a whole, it's like 421A.
Yeah.
We don't pick it up. Oh my God, I don't want to,
Well, I mean, we
that's
did,
awful.
we did pay someone to make a presentation to us on the things that are important to us.
Right.
So like,
What-
it's not
what's-
random.
What's our, that would be great. What's our timeframe? When do we, when is our opportunity to make comments?
Well, we had George Jones present last month after he read through the plan. He works for us. So
Right,
the things that these are responses to the things that he brought to our attention as a professional who evaluated.
Who did
the
read
plan.
the 700
Who
pages.
did?
and there were many comments from, from people who were sitting, after he presented of, how they framed it. They were great concerns.
Well, Majed pulled this out of the notes.
I think the resolution is responsive to those comments, right?
Yeah, that was how
The
he wrote.
genesis of it, yeah.
Yeah, Majed wrote the section.
Well, there was that one I remember, it was about the sewage and so on, and how we're gonna, you build these buildings, who's gonna deal with it? I loved it. I thought, oh,
Yeah.
right, we don't have that either. And but certainly one of the comments I remember very clearly, it was perfectly reasonable. I'm just concerned that in this rush, we're only picking out certain things, right? That maybe struck me or somebody
Well,
else, and then anything else.
We're gonna actually, this is gonna be presented to us and we're gonna have our formal opportunity to write a resolution.
Okay.
About it. This is a preliminary response to DCP.
Okay, so it's,
It does seem
Yeah.
important to get it in the door before the door closes. Because I think once it's final, it's like, we don't have an opportunity.
It's gonna be up or down.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want them to come here and be like, oh, well, we can't do
Well-
anything about it now.
why, but we got so crunched in time that it doesn't make sense, right? If something is of this moment,
Mhm.
to do this.
Well, that's what they do.
Well, yeah, but then we comply in a way which, we're just part of the problem then. That's not,
Well, I
If
don't
you
think this
say
is
anything, you
applying,
say-
yeah. I think this is our opportunity to push back on it, though.
I understand, but what I'm saying is we don't know enough about what's in that proposal.
I think we do.
Well,
I
these are
think so.
the,
Nobody-
Well, you don't have to
George
read
James
every
read it.
single page of it, like, that's why we hired George James to do it, right, and to present to us, because he's the one who
Well,
also has the technical training for it too, so.
well, then.
Like,
we
even the
get a
electeds aren't gonna read all 700 pages of it, so we can either, create a precedent where we have to read every single page of every legislation to
that we're
write a
gonna
resolution on it, which I
resolution.
agree, I would love for people to do that in general, but people won't even sign up to write minutes, right? But that I can't have that expectation for people to read 100 pages.
This one is very important.
No, I
right?
agree.
This
I agree.
determines the quality of life.
But do you disagree with any of these things?
Do I,
think that's- Yeah,
well,
I
I
think
told
like
you
a lot of
before
the-
class, want to just be there.
Yeah.
Hold on, I would now,
I think a lot of the things too are like additional things that you would like to add to this, and so that doesn't preclude doing that.
I just had some questions. What are the buildings we're talking about? Are they co-ops, condos, rentals? What's the notion of in perpetuity on keeping these affordable? How is that defined? I don't know that.
in terms of affordability, there was something in here about this, and then Friday, it was clarified by DCP. And DCP's plan for the standard affordability bonus is 20% of the units at 80% AMI in perpetuity.
And that means the 80%, it never changes.
That's right, forever. And that's an average or blended or whatever it is. So like they could
And I
have,
didn't understand that too.
they could have half of the units at 60%, and half of the units at 100%. And those would come to 80%.
Um,
I didn't understand that, and Nolan Hicks of the Post explained it to me on Twitter on Friday. When I was complaining about it.
Okay,
It's the blended AMI of all of their affordable units.
and do the affordable, I know this was an issue in the past, I don't know if it still is now, that they didn't have to put the affordable units in with the entire building, they could put them some, like.
Yeah, I think that's already
bridges,
been, that's already been
Shut
changed.
down,
You
yeah.
cannot do that
Yeah,
anymore.
they
And
can-
you cannot have.
Corridor.
The corridors.
They're on- No, that was not only a corridor, it was a separate building,
Offsite.
right?
Oh, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
that actually came up, George James brought that up, that will be ended.
Okay, I mean, these are the things, to me, that are how people then live and,
Yeah.
and you go to, these these ANHD, whatever. That's what they, the lived experience and the non-examined life, what you do, then you got what you, the floating floor.
I think,
Oh, I'm also, this thing about, we're okay with
Which
six
number is
hundred
this?
eighty,
This
six
is
hundred
number
eighty
4.
square feet. Oh, yeah, there's constraints on net growth, does not address them to maximize the net increase. I thought, oh my God, I couldn't get here on time.
Yeah.
It would appear that I was, I was negligent, but the streets are so crowded coming up here, and you can't, it's like, come on, move faster. So we're saying, the need to maximize the net increase the number of units as new housing developed. Oh, dear God, according
Right, but
to
we
our
can't-
neighborhood,
but we can't say we're calling for the construction of new housing and then say,
yeah, but what you're calling for so let's go back to, mega units, very smaller.
Which one are we talking about?
And then what
You're
you
talking about
want,
number 3?
no, number three,
Number 3?
that what we want is, these very small, the 680, or, have small
The
size.
micro unit.
Yeah, the micro units. Well, that's made for, single people, that's sort of the setup seems
I
to be
mean-
for the,
most people I know live in under 680 square feet.
do they live a family,
No, but
No, a single person.
yeah, single person.
Exactly, right.
I think that's what we're trying to address here. It is like that there's housing for the diversity of people and situations that doesn't currently exist, right? If the market determines it, right? Because
I mean, this is something that's in the proposal.
yeah,
like-
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and so you're saying it's okay. What I'm saying is, if that becomes an emphasis, again, how they distribute the number of rooms in an apartment. So if what you're doing is you're creating a bunch of small rooms, you're creating, the single population and the increase of a young single population. We do want age diversity, we want family diversity. So, I can't raise a kid in a,
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking,
Et cetera,
the way I kind of thought about that was like the way that, I mean, Sciton's a good example of this, of how they like split up all of these apartments into these like little tiny spaces that were initially maybe, meant for like a family of 4, but now you
Yeah.
have like 5 post-grad college students living in the same
Yeah.
space. So it actually creates more space for them in a more defined way. So I think it was kind of like addressing that population in that stage of
Right.
like, okay, I'm post-college, but I don't have the funds to get like a 1-bedroom or even a studio, but something that's more manageable. I don't know. Yeah.
But you do understand though, if you encourage a small, and I follow your logic of
Yeah.
it, but and I don't know how it's divided, where the statement is of size of the apartment, if we're saying, and we certainly want to encourage families, you don't want to, set it up so it's single people in graduate school, whatever it is. You
Okay.
want to then have, and I don't know if it said that somewhere, so net growth, that we want to have, we want a diversity in apartments sizes. We don't want to, have a bunch of shoeboxes for single people because we want to have families as well. Right? So somehow that,
I had the same thought. I think that's missing, because we say in multiple places, like, no combining units, prioritizing smaller than the current threshold. we reference mega unit, I do think we could add something about diversity of housing stock.
Give
Maybe
language,
that's like
yeah. Give it like a language or,
would it be like a separate bullet, do you think?
Yeah,
well, what are you like, what are you thinking initially?
I was thinking, I don't know if it's explicitly covered in the city of yes, but like.
Like maybe it would be a
Permit.
new number 3.
Yeah,
like,
it's.
Yeah,
well, no, it's not a part of 3 because they're
no, I'm saying
using,
a new number 3,
you mean.
like
Right.
housing
before, after,
diversity, like loss of existing units we wanna prevent, but then we also wanna create housing
Right.
diversity, whatever. we wanna
Yeah,
call
housing
that,
diversity for,
or whatever term you wanna use. Yeah.
let me see if I can find it in the existing. Okay. We could just keep it general. Community board 6 requests that the proposal prioritize housing diversity and community board 6.
What did you think? Community Board 6 and call,
Calls on the,
Calls on the proposal, and we can wordsmith it.
yeah.
would it be something that we, that the, there has to be representation of a better representation, or I don't know what the representation is
You could
now.
say to meet the needs of single
Not only a
individuals
single,
and families in,
Single and family occupancy.
Yeah.
it's really families that are the problem, that are missing. Like, we have,
because there's no room, I mean.
Yeah.
yeah. I think that covers it, but you're right.
Is that,
Yeah.
does that make sense?
yeah, it's fine.
You read it?
Number 3 is housing diversity. Community Board 6 calls on the proposal to include a diversity of housing stock to meet the needs of single and family occupancies.
Okay.
Why don't we just say, like the other lines, the proposal should include, because that's what all the other ones.
Yeah, because I put calls on as the resolve.
Yeah,
Will people know what the diversity of stock, is that a clear way for them?
I think it's clear.
yeah. I mean, it's really diversity of housing sizes.
Yeah, that's, okay.
What was the word again?
Diversity of housing sizes. Oh,
Housing
here?
unit size.
Oh,
I mean, I just think that you could say the proposal should include, I don't think we need to bring
Manhattan.
Midnight Community Board 6 in again.
Mhm.
Okay, the proposal should encourage the construction of a diversity of housing sizes. Is what I would say,
With, you know,
to
with
meet the needs of single and
You
families,
said diversity of housing stock?
of a diversity of housing sizes.
the needs of, both our single population and all families. One of those.
Or
draws-
to meet the needs of families of all sizes.
Oh, that's great.
Or efficient.
Mhm.
Okay.
Now you're speaking my language.
Housing construction diversity or just housing diversity is fine?
That's just housing diversity is fine. Can you scroll up? Is our transition okay with the edits between the whereases and the,
So this is just the resolve. So I
yeah,
think everyone's fine with the whereases.
yeah, it's that paragraph there.
So
that
I was
we-
editing this as we were talking about it because the proportionally, or the
Yeah.
provisionally endorses, so I said. This is my edit, is that Manhattan Community Board 6 calls on the Department of City Planning to include the following modifications to their preliminary City of Yes housing proposal. And then we just take out the rest,
Okay,
and then just go into 1, 2, 3.
take it out and let's look at it.
Your first whereas, now that it's formally including says it's a support for significant action to address the shortage of housing units. But again, in that very beginning thing, we're not saying anything about the shortage of housing, however we said it.
Affordable, well, we just put affordable in.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said change it lower down. Okay.
The share.
To address the shortage and affordability of
Okay, thank
housing.
you. Oh, all right.
Full screen this.
I'm also concerned to, maybe I don't know what, Levine's comprehensive housing Manhattanites, but he's a big fan of the FAR, increasing the FAR. And so I don't know what else he's up to, so I have
Well,
concerns about him.
I mean, we read and.
Yeah, no, but all I'm saying is you put him, I'm just saying his present position is in support of the proposal, and increasing the density, right? So,
Yeah.
and he's really coming out with that, so that's all I'm saying is that it's his position, I think, is comfortable, he's right up there at the top. And the other problem with him is he's not very clear on what he means by affordable. Right, and that's again a concern.
I think that kind of addresses, like your language from earlier addresses.
Yeah, no, I'm just,
affordability, yeah.
you see, you're easing the housing crisis, but his position is.
Well, our board is on record
Yeah.
as endorsing his plan.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, that's a fact at this point.
Okay,
But I like the language you included because I actually think that hits it, and as I think about it more, if we were to do like 30 to 165, like just say we put that language in, it doesn't create that connection between creating a proportionate number of units
Yeah.
for those. It just says address it, so you could build one and be like, oh, we took care of someone at 30%. So I think your language actually does get to the affordability of it.
Do we
thank you.
have, the numbers will be cleaned up?
Yeah, the numbers will be clean.
Do we have something that someone would like to propose that we vote on?
I can make a motion to support this resolution as is with these amendments.
And we're cutting out the provisional endorsement.
Correct, that's been.
Yeah, so let me read the
Yeah,
new.
read that.
I'll
I
read the
think
new-
the numbers are messed up.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Brian will fix it after.
I second Kyle's. support.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna read the new edits. So before we had it therefore be resolved and further resolve, so we've deleted both of those, we have one resolve. And it says therefore be it resolved that Manhattan Community Board 6 calls on the Department of City Planning to include the following modifications to their preliminary city of yes housing proposal.
Will you please change that to make the following modification?
Yes.
And that transition is good.
Should we say anything like strongly calls on, or are we fine with that?
Urges.
Yeah, we,
Urges.
Urges is always.
Urges is good.
So I don't like urges.
you don't like urges?
No, I like something, do
Wait,
something.
do you think urges is too weak?
Yeah.
So what would you
I've
say?
got, what were the other terms you said?
Calls on, encourages, but those are weaker to me
Yeah,
than
I know,
yes.
falls on,
I don't wanna say demands, I don't wanna
No.
say insists, like,
Yeah.
we need to say professional.
urges. Is urges okay, or do we want to?
I mean, these are all fine with me.
Yeah, it's better than requests.
Okay, urges the city of planning to make the following modifications to the preliminary city of yes housing proposal. 1, affordable housing. The proposal does not mandate any additional income restricted housing in exchange for liberalizing the zoning regulations that govern housing construction. Manhattan Community Board 6 is formally on record as considering the development and preservation of affordable housing to be among our city's highest priorities. Therefore, any scheme to increase housing construction overall should result in the proportionate creation of new units that are income restricted to be affordable to New Yorkers according to the income distribution of the population of the city. For example, if 20% of city residents earn less than 30% of the area median income, then 20% of the units should be income restricted to that group.
Should be income restricted to be affordable to that group. Because we're not suggesting that only they can get them.
To that group.
Yes.
Does that get to your, I know it's wordy,
Yeah,
so
well, it's
it,
just hard to.
it gets to your point
Yeah,
about
yeah.
what is our definition of affordability. So any
Yeah.
scheme to increase housing construction overall should result in the proportionate creation of new units that are income restricted to be affordable to New Yorkers according to the income distribution of the population of the city. For example, if 20% of city residents earn less than 30% of the area median income, then 20% of the units created.
The
Great.
affordable units created.
Yeah,
You want to.
of the affordable
We say
units created.
should be income restricted to be affordable to that.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, of the
Yeah.
units created should be
Affordable,
income
then
restricted.
we won't be-
But I guess your question is like, well, what is that affordable price? But that's.
But that's a-
Yeah,
that's in the AMI.
Yeah, it's the AMI, and so
Yeah.
you say that.
okay,
Created,
so we don't need to
You
go
need-
into
No, it's fine.
percentage of it.
it's fine, you need a letter D there.
Yeah. All right,
created.
does that make sense to you, Sandra?
Yeah, the only thing is, then 20% of the units, it's not the units created, it's it's the units, affordable units created. I don't know if you.
Well, we're saying that 20% of the
Is
units
affordable.
overall should be income restricted to be affordable to that group, so it is affordable.
Yeah, to be affordable at the
All the
end.
new ones.
Yeah,
Okay,
Perfect.
to be affordable to that group. 2, this will all be fixed.
2 is the same,
Yep,
or the one here.
yep.
Housing diversity we did,
Mhm.
strength and APRO, clothing and infill housing,
Everything else is the same.
yeah.
I'm fine with the blue stuff. And then there's just a be it further resolved that as a general principle, Manhattan Community Board 6 does not endorse changes to the zoning code that reduces the
No,
opportunity.
reduce, because of the
Reduce.
changes that reduce.
There's just changes that reduce the opportunity for community boards, thank you, or the public at large to provide input on developments within residential neighborhoods.
All right,
Yep, so I made that motion, Abby seconded it.
okay, so, we will take a vote on whether we, endorse this resolution. Thank you, Paul.
We'll now take a vote on this. When your name is called, please answer in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Kyle Todd,
In favor?
you. Michelle Goldberg is excused. Nat Kalani,
In favor.
thank you. Abby Krusmar,
In favor.
thank you. Sandra Laptop,
in favor.
thank you. Rich Mintz,
In favor.
thank you. Mariam Wu,
In favor.
thank you. Livia Shredder,
In favor.
thank you. With 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining, and 0 abstaining for cause or not entitled, the motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sandra, for your, language. It was very helpful. No, it was good. I'm gonna move on to the next topic, because we have another resolution that we need to consider. Which is time sensitive. I don't think it's complicated, but we haven't talked about it yet. It's related to one of our agenda items, which is Spark Kips Bay. Our board is on record as asking for, housing as part of Kips Bay. That does not appear to be happening. And, I would like us to, provide a resolution from the housing committee to go along with the resolution that's already been provided from land use that strongly asks for housing, in the project. And I've written something very simple. This is something that our members that are participating in the Spark visioning process can use to take to the meetings and to give to Keith Powers and say, look, we're serious. And what the resolution says is it's already, a top priority of us to create affordable housing. That's what we're on record. This is what Spark Kips Bay is. It's a big project that's happening on a site that we have been expecting would have housing on it. Our board is already, on record as saying that affordable housing should be included. The plans are getting final and, to the best we can determine, there's not going to be any housing. We're also losing 650 dormitory units. This will make things worse, not better for our community. Therefore, we are reiterating our call for income restricted housing. And we're calling on the state and the city university to replace the dormitory housing that they're taking away. I don't think this is controversial. But I do want to give us a chance to look at it and think about it.
Are we calling on the city to replace the dormitory anywhere in the city?
I just said anywhere. I mean, I don't think anywhere in Manhattan.
Well, why won't they? What's their rationale for not?
I think they make more money. Well,
They
CUNY
didn't say that though.
CUNY doesn't want dorms. They want to get out of the dorm business.
Well, it costs students a whole lot of money for the dorms they set up, which is with hotels. It's
Yeah.
quite disgraceful.
I think we need to say anywhere in Manhattan.
You think we need to say what?
Anywhere in Manhattan. To replace the units of Brookdale campus dormitory housing anywhere in Manhattan.
Anywhere in Manhattan?
Where are we?
Wait,
Wait,
So-
doesn't it say anymore?
It
It
says
says-
replace them,
Oh, you're saying it doesn't say where to replace them?
right?
I mean, I wouldn't say anywhere near, I would actually say in the neighbor, in the
In-
local
in the
community,
community,
yeah.
Wait,
Because then they could just build it in like East New York, Brooklyn.
doesn't it say we're a different site in Manhattan right there?
on the spot,
On
aren't
the
they?
same or a different side
I
of
didn't read that
Manhattan,
part.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that restrictive enough?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, didn't read that far.
Okay.
Can you, and can we say something, the only would be, so that means the nursing school lost.
That's right.
So shouldn't, and why is Bellevue letting them get away with that? Why? Because the nurses, that's crazy,
Well,
right?
I mean, the nurses are mad, the nursing students.
And what about the administration over at Bellevue, do you know?
I mean,
Okay,
I think they would just rather have the campus. The administration.
should we put something in there about income restricted and also the need for the replacement of the dormitory for
We have,
the nursing students? I don't know if it's in there.
yeah, we do. We're calling for income restricted housing. And we're calling for replacing the dormitory
Okay.
units. Those are the specific things we're calling for in this resolution.
Make it worse about
Where's the?
it.
Any comments or motions?
Susan has her hand.
Oh, Susan has her hand up. Hang on just a second,
Give her
Susan.
Permission. Second. To promote citizenship.
Oh, she has to click something. There we go. Susan, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, thank you. I think the real point of the the affordable housing is not just that it's general. I think the point is that because of the loss of dormitories for nurses and, other medical students, they should be the ones to benefit from any housing on the Spark campus, not just general population. I just want to make sure that, I mean, that was my understanding. Maybe I have it wrong.
No, I mean, that's a good idea. I mean, do we want to add, at the very end?
We say dormitory housing.
Oh, we do say dormitory housing units. Yeah, but what Susan is saying is that, those, students
first
should get, priority on the campus itself.
Yeah, at the very beginning, it makes it look like it's about affordable housing, which it is, but it's not, as my understanding is the issue wasn't affordable housing for anybody. It was dormitory style housing for those who lost their place to live or will be losing their place to live.
Honestly, it's both. I mean, I was assuming that when this was redeveloped, we would get housing towers there. We've been talking about this for like 3 years and, we're not gonna get that. But it would be great to get some ordinary housing on the campus, but you're right that those students may need special, consideration. Would someone like to propose a minor rewarding to give them priority?
I mean, as of now, these people are going to be coming in from Staten Island and the Bronx, and it's really not good. It's a shame for them. That's all I can say.
That's, or isn't it?
What, yeah, hi.
I was gonna say, maybe we can add in the first resolve, inclusion of a significant component of income restricted housing that prioritizes students.
No, that's, I think it should
Nursing
be
students, nursing and medical students.
the,
Campus students, I don't know, because there might be multiple stuff, right? there?
but the first, it seems like, and I agree with Susan's point, the first priority are the nursing students and other medical staff who have lost any opportunity
I was just
to,
gonna say, yeah.
right? So.
Because I always share the story, like I lived in this development as a Hunter student, as an undergrad, just, I wasn't a nursing student, but it was housing for students, in general.
Yeah,
And we were all mixed, it was like, there was, you know, I lived next to a nursing student, stuff like that. So,
So can we put in all,
The housing
you know,
needs
certainly nursing and medical staff
of
need
Yeah, so
dormitories,
could
they
we-
absolutely
yeah.
have to
nursing
be
and medical
accommodated.
staff.
And other students, I don't know how to put it, and,
staff,
well,
Students and staff.
Yeah,
students and other students and staff should have the priority, should,
What's the
have
entity
the
right
housing
now?
priority.
I mean, the problem is when we get this, the problem with getting you specific is that the mix of people using the site will change.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to say like necessarily like nursing and medical, because it could, like, that's how like students and staff is still general enough, yeah.
Michael.
About the closing of Brookdale campus, like, when the redevelopment of the site, there were other student groups that were also prioritized, like, they prioritized scholarship students and students from out of town, and like, students have had a lot of other options where they, during the course of the studies for housing in Brookdale, so we know it should be included in the priority for the Spark housing as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Maybe we can remove.
Of
nursing and
existing, yeah,
medical
should we just say
Yeah.
existing students?
students,
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right, drop the whole categorization, say that there have been the dormitory facilities which are crucial for the medical center.
Yeah,
And those need to be, included in the Spark plan, and don't, you know, don't elaborate, you're right, the more we elaborate, the more we get
okay,
tying ourselves up.
I'm comfortable with.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah, that's good.
Susan, does that sound good? Is that it?
I just remember when they had this EDC put on this presentation, there was somebody on stage who was a nurse, and she talked about how important having a dormitory at Brookdale was for her studies, that she knew that she had a steady, affordable place to live, and she lamented the fact that that was going by the wayside, and there was going to be a real problem with nursing and medical students in terms of their future needs. Now, I do remember that they somebody from Spark mentioned they outsourced dorm management to a company that does that, but I'm saying, where are those dorms going to end up?
Yeah, it's gonna be apartments. Do we wanna just broaden it to just CUNY students?
No,
Or no, we don't?
I think well, if you're saying CUNY is on a shtick to not have any association with dorms, and you really.
Well, but CUNY operates all the schools that we're talking about, I think.
It's not that they would operate the dorms, it's just that it would be for CUNY students.
Wait, but is the nursing school CUNY?
Well,
Yeah,
it's Hunter,
yeah.
which is CUNY, yeah.
What about the medical, we talked about some of the medical staff?
Yeah.
Um,
Existing CUNY students and then staff. I
and,
would consider
oh, yeah,
nurses and.
okay,
Do we want to, would you rather say healthcare students and staff? Or is that too
Right.
limited?
I think it limits.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if we wanna put in the type of students that should be in.
I guess we don't care.
We don't care, cause like right now, the space is used by a multitude of students.
Yeah, not just
Right.
healthcare.
So
Yeah.
it's like, it was people like myself, I was a undergraduate English literature major, I wasn't a
Mhm.
healthcare student, I wasn't a nursing student, but it was a
Yeah.
mixed use space. So the idea is like, once that dormitory goes, like, where do all of those students go, whether they're
Yeah.
healthcare or not, right?
but if you implicate CUNY, and it's a CUNY.
Yeah, we probably
then you're
shouldn't.
gonna have to-
We
Then
probably
you're gonna have
shouldn't.
to deal with CUNY, so
Yeah.
that would be,
Oh,
yeah.
all right,
Let me just say existing, I think that's general enough, like,
okay,
It's students.
yeah,
all right, does someone want to call this to a vote?
Yeah. I'll make a motion to support this.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Abby is seconding. Brian? We're handing this over to you.
When your name is called, please answer in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Kyle Ty,
In favor?
thank you. Nad Kalani,
In favor.
thank you. Abby Kuzma,
In favor.
thank you. Sandra Lefkoff.
In favor.
Thank you. Rich Mix.
In favor.
Thank you. Miriam Wu.
In favor.
Thank you. Olivia Schredner.
In favor.
Thank you. I was 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining, 0 abstaining for cause not entitled. Motion passes.
Thank you. Because it is so late, with the permission of the group, I'd like to defer the other topics that are on our agenda, which are, budget requests and, good cause. I'll just give a 1-minute update on good cause, which is that there's talk of a deal, in the legislature as part of the budget. It's not great. It's good cause eviction with a bunch of carve outs that will be impossible to administer and make the program essentially worthless for a lot of people. And in exchange for that, there's a replacement, 421A. And there's an increase in the rent allowance for individual apartment improvements, which honestly, I don't think is that crazy, if you look at the numbers. But the good cause conditions are not great, but there's really nothing we can do at this point. Either something will happen or it won't, and we are where we are. I just wanted to let you know. All right, if there is no objection from anyone, I would like to adjourn the meeting. And seeing none, we are adjourned at 8:09 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for sticking through this.
At least go over email or text.
Yeah.
Or email.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Are we
Let's hope
off?
it's a hot
Cam,
out.
are we off? Live stream and